Good afternoon and welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman and this is my co-host Petey Freeman, and he beat me to this. I was recording for a client earlier and he heard my voice and came out and passed out on the desk. So we'll see if he wakes up. I pay him anyway, just so you know, because I know he's important now to the show. This is video 265 and it's May 8th, and let's jump in when it's appropriate. By the way, my regular subscribers know about Good Evidence. Good Evidence is an ebook I wrote. It's now been written into a paperback, but I haven't been able to get it on Amazon. But it's a philosophy, it's original, and it's about anything that happens that lights you up is good evidence. So it has it covers a wide swath of things. Hi, Pete. Good, your camera ready. Good boy. So this is good evidence that the Catholics have a new Pope, PopeLeo the 14th. And I'm not going to go through a bio of his, but reportedly he was born in the United States and then lived outside of the United States and speaks a ton of different languages. Why this is good evidence, because I don't necessarily celebrate the Catholic Church. If you've seen the movie Spotlight, you would understand why. But he has this particular, Leo, which is so friendly, Leo, has openly criticized both Trump and Vance, and he's clearly done it within the last 100 days. They said recently, but if they've only been there for 100 days, it's recent. So already I like Leo, and I like that he's outspoken, and I love that Trump and Vance can't make chummy with him or anything like that. So that's good evidence. We'll see how this goes. The second thing I wanted to address is, and we do have runes. When I posted that sort of 1950s looking car zooming down a highway, and I think it's a painting, and I wrote about, did you ever take road trips when you were a kid? I got a lot of responses, and that was really fun. So much fun to read a lot of people told me yeah, we did this and we did that, and then we stopped at the park and my dad would blow, so I realized I really touched a kind of a button. And all this time I thought I was somehow maybe unique in that being a fantastic part of my childhood. And everybody has a different reason. It's because my dad traveled a lot. So these car trips were from Illinois, Chicago, down to Miami. And then we check into a boutique hotel that had a kitchen. And my dad would go and work all of do his act maybe 3 times a night at various hotels on Miami Beach, Collins Avenue, and that's where we were all summer. I loved that our whole family was together at the same time, and I was very little, and I had an older brother, so they packed the wells in the back of the car with pillows and blankets, so I had my own little cot back there. And because my dad would drive all night, I'd see shooting stars and all kinds of stuff. And if he stopped somewhere, I really loved going to those crummy cafes in the middle of the night. So anyway, I just want you to know it was fun to read that we all have these really special memories of the car trips. Yeah, it's good to know. I didn't realize how universal. I don't know if you've seen this YouTube channel. It's not predictive, they don't do runes or anything. They talk politics, 2 women, and they're mature, not as mature as I am, but they're mature, and they're very funny and very irreverent. Irreverent. That's the word I'm looking for. My little fan here, which it's kind of warm today. So they do talk sometimes about things where I've had it. So they have a little venting fest, always very short. And so I thought, I can relate to this. By the way, they really do have very good political commentary. They have a producer. Everything's researched. They're smart, and they're funny a lot of the time. So I'm just going to tell you a couple of things that make me go, I've had it. And that'll get you thinking too. 2 days in a row this week, 2 days in a row. 2 different people, of course, beeped in front of me in the checkout line. Like, it was just so rude. 2 days in a row. First day it was a woman, and then it was a man in Costco. And he went out of his way. He saw there was a pretty good line to get into, and he just went all on speed, pulling his giant, they have those giant carts, and whipped it in front of me. And I said, I was in line. And you know what he says? Oh, I don't have that much. And he had a whole lot. I had 3 items. He had probably 11. And I just wanted to crush him. And I just, Carrie, you can't do that. Take a couple of deep breaths. You don't want to be Karen. You don't want someone to pull out their video camera and videotape you. So I had to practice, self-regulation in line. The other thing that really doesn't have to do with me is I'm sick of the commercials about body odor. And the first ones that came out maybe, 2-3 years ago was like Lume. Was supposedly created by a doctor because no matter how much we shower, we don't stop smelling. And now we've got all these different commercials for these Lume type body odor things that no matter what it is, just pour all over your body and your bits. Now they've got it for men. I'm sorry, it's so ludicrous. They're basically saying, showering or bathing just isn't enough because you smell. Well, you know what? I actually don't smell. Some people don't smell. I don't have those kind of glands. And it's not that I can't get sweaty, but I don't need that stuff. Anyway, and then if you've ever, been scrolling around YouTube, you see the advertisements by Dr. Grundy, who really talks a lot about olive oil and all the things you cannot eat. And I've just had enough of Dr. Grundy. Okay, so I hope it made you laugh. That's my rant. Now, seriously, I've been thinking about immigration and the few people I've had contact with, and I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, someone introduced me to this woman who, Mexican woman, who my friend said, oh my God, she's unbelievable, and she's the nicest person on the planet. And so I had some money and I hired her, and she was indeed unbelievable. And part of what made her unbelievable, because she was so good at cleaning, was that she loved to do it. She loved to make things clean, and she would not miss anything. And she was the sweetest person. She's not dead, but I'm gonna say loved animals because I'm not gonna see her again. And loved my cats. I had a previous cat, Redson, and she'd come in with her accent and go, Red, it's so good to see you, Red. It was just the cutest thing. And then Petey and Petey. So I would drive her home because she didn't live too far from me. So she'd get done and I'd drive her home and she'd talk to me in the car. And I just share this with you. All the time I knew her, I was worried about her being here legally, but I didn't feel I had the right to ask her. And I recommended her to people that hired her immediately and regularly, like they had a schedule with her and they loved her. Everybody loved her. And she tells me one day on the ride home about, she had 3 sons. She has 3 sons born here in America. And I met them darling, She said, oh, my boys, they have to do chores. And I went, really? So, oh, yeah. No, I had taught them how to do laundry, and they all know how to cook. I went, they know how to cook. Oh yeah, they need to know how to cook. They can't depend on if they get married. They need to, and there was one other thing she taught them: do laundry and clean. She taught them to clean, and they had jobs around the house, things they were supposed to do. And this would be including her husband. She just ran that household like a really good sergeant. Sweetest woman. I was so impressed. And so with this immigration thing, I've been frantic about, is she okay? Is she okay? I called someone who knew her well and could speak Spanish, and finally got the answer. About 2.5 months ago, she moved back to Mexico. Her mother wasn't doing well, and that was one of the incentives. And since Catalina got home, her mother's up and walking and happy and eating, but she's not coming back to the States. And her husband is still here. He was always, for the time I knew her, a cook in a restaurant. He's gathering up things, probably saving a little more money, and then he's going to join her in Mexico. And I will never see her again, but she is safe. Whew, that was that, because I went, oh no, this cannot happen to her. So I wanted to share that with you. And then about 3 days after the felon won the presidency this time, I was at a Hispanic market that I go to sometimes because they have really good roasted chickens, and I got in line. It wasn't a long line, and these two Hispanic men who were wearing red Trump, they just immediately started smiling at me and go, oh, señorita, and they moved their stuff so I could put my stuff down, and they were incredibly sweet. They were just adorable guys, younger than me. They were just so cute. So one of them is, I don't know, kind of flirting with me or something. They were younger. And I said, oh, so your guy won. I just wanted to see what he would say. And he goes, oh, yeah. And I said, you must be very happy. And he went, oh, yeah, I'm so happy. And the other guy's going, yeah. And I said, I'm glad you're happy. I didn't vote that way. I voted another way. And the cashier stopped for a minute, like, oh no, are we gonna witness a fight? And I was just friendly, I was not gonna argue with anybody. I was kind of curious. He goes, well, I feel much safer in the United States with Trump as president, and I made more money. I had more money when he was president. I went, you did? Really? Oh yeah. And these supports the military, and we're gonna do better. And I said, well, good luck. I hope you're great. I think about these two guys. I think about what's happened to them. Are they working? Have they gotten apprehended? And it's very poignant in my mind. And there was one other story, but I'm taking up too much time, and I'll bring that story in later. So I did do some runes, and I did some weird runes, meaning I kind of asked some weird questions that I thought, I'm gonna bet like $1,000 that nobody that's watching this heard a reading about, well, maybe you did. Okay, I'm not gonna do this because maybe you did, and then I'll be out $1,000. This popped into my mind 2 days ago, so I went, why don't you put it part of the show and ask the runes? It's a legitimate question. The pipe bomber from January 6th, they've never identified that person. Now, I don't know if the FBI knows and they don't want to identify, or they just didn't look hard enough, but it's hard for me to imagine that they don't know. But that's all I can say. However, I've always felt there was a really good chance it might have been Marjorie Taylor Greene, because at that time, she was very anxious to be like the new kid on the block and to create alliances, and yeah, I'll do it. And one thing that I noticed in terms of body language, there's a couple of videos of MTG walking down a hallway, and I think it's her left arm. If it's not her left arm, it's her right arm, but I think it's her left arm that just swings. It's like she can't control it. And I saw the bomber doing that, masqueraded, and you couldn't identify male or female. The walk seemed a bit female to me, but she caught her, if it was a woman, is a woman. She caught herself and shoved her hand into her pocket to get the arm to not swing. This is something I've never forgotten. So I asked the runes, and then what my ear said was, Roger Stone knows. Roger Stone knows who the bomber was. It wasn't him, because that would be easy to spot. So I got some weird, I just got some weird answers from the runes that I've been trying to sift through. So I got the rune of Gateway in the reversed position. And it says, be sure that you are not suffering over your suffering. Well, this week she's been complaining like crazy. She's been angry and attacking and criticizing Trump. She's kind of lost it. So this says, hasty decisions may cause regrets. Impulses must be tempered. Do not go where you have not begun. Meaning, don't run for governor, don't run for the Senate, which is what she's talking about. It says, be still, collect yourself, and wait on the will of heaven. So what I want to say is that it feels like the runes are giving her advice somehow. So the question is, what's the energy surrounding Marjorie Taylor Greene's Senate bid or governor she's considering? And she said she can do this real sweet girl thing. And she said, well, you know, my main thing is the constituents, and I want to make sure that I do the right thing for the... No, she wants to make sure she does the right thing for herself, because she's like Trump. So so this is weird. I got the rune of wholeness, which is a very good rune. It involves the impulse towards self-realization. And I wrote, except she's not capable of that. It represents the wholeness to which we all belong and are connected. And then I wrote, but she's divisive. Through wholeness, the runes say, a new, stronger, more solid, and higher foundation is created. It's a rune of great power, making life force available. And then I wrote, she cannot. And it gives this advice. It speaks of letting light into part of your life that has been shut away. It says, vanquish any refusal to let right action flow through you. Wholeness is strongly aligned with the sun's energy. All of that sounds good. And then I bolded this. In some instances, however, you may see fit to withdraw or retreat in the face of a pressing situation. So that's what she's talking about now. But there's this a little foreshadowing here that, because she says she can win either one, she's pretty sure. You should see her, it's amazing. She's so cocky. Then the next rune, I got really good rune most of the time. Partnership, where there's no reverse. And this has to do with partnerships of all kinds. But I'm just looking at this. It doesn't say too much. Because there's no reverse to partnership. So it may be that says either you're a buyer or a seller. So she might be a seller of secrets, but it's called the love rune. So I'm looking at this going, oh my God, I'm horrified. But I did get, the last rune for her was the self in the reversed position. And it says, perhaps you are at a time when you need to reconsider your situation, Margie. The runes didn't say that, I said that. It is difficult to find one's place in the world if you are blocked. And this reversal urges you to begin by being clear with yourself, not turn to others, but look inside, in silence for the enemy of your progress. And then I wrote, she is her own enemy. She cannot adjust. That's what I wrote. No matter what area of your life may be in disarray, consider you may recognize the outer enemy as but a reflection coming from within. Do you think? May indicate a rocky path for you. Advises one to reconsider decisions and actions. Perhaps you are doing something you don't even like. That's the runes. Perhaps you are doing something that you don't even like. So underneath it all, they're saying you're flying high, sweetie, but don't get too excited. There's consequences coming. There's unforeseen things coming. There's maybe a collapse coming. All right, next rune. This is sort of hard to shape, but this is what I asked. Does the White House staff realize that the felon is exhibiting dementia? So I got journey reversed. It puts you on notice to be attentive to personal relationships. There may be ruptures. There may be more ruptures than reconciliations, and it may be an effort to keep your good humor. Journey Reverse says the requirements of your growth may totally disrupt what you had intended, which is maybe long-term employment. The desired outcomes may elude you, staff member. However, what you regard as detours, disruptions, even failures, will actually be rerouting opportunities with an abiding destination. Then I pulled Harvest, and I read the whole thing, and I picked out what was at the last paragraph, and I went, well, this should go on top. So I put this on top. This is normally what I'm going to share with you, the last paragraph of Harvest. Harvest can magically speed things up or slow things down. If a person sows no seeds, does no work, plants no goals or desires in his or her thoughts, this rune will bring about situations which reflect that lack. L-A-C-K, that lack. The ultimate consequences of past human action unfold into the future. Some might call that karma. That's my comment. It also moves us strategically, taking action when the time is right. That probably speaks of staff taking action when the time is right. There's a period of waiting, it tells us. But the turning point represents a new momentum, peace, and harmony. Well, that can't happen with Trump present. It simply can't. We all know that. And it says in terms of the future, it means that a time of abundance may come. There's a feeling I have that there may be one staffer that comes forward, like, was it Tim Miller? I can't remember who did, Taylor or Miller, who did an anonymous post in the New York Times. And for a long time, nobody knew who this was. It was. I'm going to say Tim Miller, and I could be wrong, but I think it was a Tim. And then finally, it came out. He was the one, and now he's a commentator. The rune of harvest, as I said, is a rune of patience and right timing. It's emblematic for this too shall pass, and it's emblematic for as you sow, so shall you reap. And we know that Trump has reaped a lot of ill will and pain and suffering. Then the last one here on Marjorie is, no, that's not Marjorie. I was wrong about that. It's about the staff. Sorry, that was my error. I wrote Margie in there. The last thing for this staff question and dementia is growth and rebirth. And it says fosters growth both symbolically and actually. There would be growth if he couldn't function anymore due to dementia, and he's getting closer and closer to it. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it. This site that goes by anonymous, likes to bring out secrets and lies, and there's a guy that always wears a mask, you don't know, but they posted a really good one this morning about his decline, and they made no bones about it, and I posted it. So more and more people are talking about what's wrong with him. He looks like he needs to collapse. He was an idiot in the meeting with the Prime Minister of Canada, who really has it together. He's just unconscious and not present. Kind of doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's really imminent. I mean, this is really coming down. So, but if he's gone, there is growth, you know, and there'll be more growth when the Democrats and the win the House and the Senate. I have a viewer that hates it when I mention the midterms. I'm so sorry. So it's confusing. Like, I didn't, you know, I had moments like that paragraph I read you was so spot on. That, you know, things that we're not ready to know. So maybe my questions were like too tough. I just blew it up. Like I always have to do that every YouTube. So I came to quotes right here. This is by Buddha. The great suffering we experience is not realizing the truth of who we are, but being caught up in a small, limited self. So that means you all, I'm included, need to acknowledge the truth of who you are. And so go away and think about that. Go away and think about that. I've been thinking about it. And one other quote, because I love Dr. Glenn Patrick Doyle from Chicago, a really gifted therapist who does a lot of trauma work and addiction work. And I read him every day and I steal his quotes and I follow him. And I might have repeated this, but it's beautiful. Just do your best with what you have in this moment. Show up as best you can and give yourself grace when you get overwhelmed and struggle to be the human that you want to be. Easy does it, he says. Easy does it. It's a long walk back to Eden. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. I really love him. He posted pictures of his beautiful gray cat, and the cat died. And you could just tell, you know, how in love he was, and he's really suffering. Beautiful, beautiful cat. I wrote him a note, but I think the cat was sick for a long time too. But he's a real special guy. I'm just looking here to make sure I didn't miss something, because I thought I had asked more questions, but maybe I eliminated one, or I talked too much. That could be entirely possible. The little piece about immigration was that I went to the doctor because they wanted me to come in to see about having a physical. So that's been set up, but I didn't go because there was anything wrong with me. They just called and said, well, she has an opening and she hasn't seen you in a long time. I was like, okay. So I showed up. And I told you, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started a meditation practice and my blood pressure was perfect. And it was the first time there that my blood pressure was perfect. So that was pretty cool. And I think it's like a good rec for meditation. With clients, I had a client who they would not do surgery on until his blood pressure got stabilized, and in 4 sessions stabilized his blood pressure, and he was able to have surgery. So that was good. But one nurse was there, and then she left, and then another nurse came in. But this nurse was this huge guy, like big as a refrigerator. I mean, tough, looking. I mean, he just came and I was like, whoa. And he was Hispanic, and had a lot of tattoos, really clean cut, kind of short, clean, great haircut. And I thought, oh, this is a fascinating guy. Now, he was real relaxed and friendly. I got such a good, oh, Petey's giving me his tail. Just such a good vibe from him. And my ear said, ask him some questions. Like, probably nobody ever asks him anything. And so I said, well, I asked him what his name is Gilbert is what he told me. And I said, have you been doing this a long time? And he said, then he was so happy to open up. So he said, well, I was in the armed services, and I didn't write it down because I couldn't write it down, but he said, I was in a part that was all about bombs. And I said, well, that's interesting. He said, and then when I got out of the service, I went to college and I got a degree in criminal justice. And then I thought this might be too close to being in the service on some level. So I went back to school and I became an X-ray technician. And then we didn't go into how he got into nursing, but this is his latest incarnation. And I said, so Gilbert, you are really smart. No one could have all these accomplishments. He said, well, I really like math and science and blah, blah, blah. And I said, clearly. And I asked him how old, and he said 37. I did not ask him if he had children or anything like that. I'll see him again. He's this doctor's nurse. It was just a really cool connection. I could tell he just really liked that I was interested. And we did a little fist pump, and it kind of made my day. And I thought, on the looks, that's the kind of guy ICE would go for. Big, dark-skinned, Hispanic with tattoos, and yet he's probably more educated than any ICE person, you know. So I just want people to be safe. It really upsets me terribly. But I just wanted to tell you about Gilbert because it was a great experience. And I thought we should never make assumptions. I didn't make any assumptions about him. I was just curious, like, this guy's interesting. I got to find out about him. And he was only too happy to share that. We could ask people more questions because I think people like it. And most of the time they'll open up. So if you're not too shy, give it a shot. People like, God, they really want to know something about me. So that's it. We know I didn't cover everything. I have a hard time covering the Middle East because I feel like an imposter. That's the reason. I feel like I kind of know my limits. And I do want to acknowledge that, like many people, I see a fast and serious decline in the felon. So we got a lot coming up. We've got a lot coming up, and I'll be back. Thanks for your patience. And oh, did you hear him? He just went, oh, that's Pleasure. It's just, I don't think I can wake him up today. He's like out. You know, when a cat has a hangover, CP, no more hangovers. You got a job to do. He's like, what's she doing? All right. Make peace, make memories. Bye-bye.